Hey everybody, Eric right here from the DiscoPosse podcast. And I wanted to share something that I've had in the video backlog, but it never made it to the video version on this YouTube channel. And that's for a variety of reasons, most of which you're going to hear when you actually listen to the interview. This is a conversation with John McAfee. John was a fantastic and incredibly polarizing and evocative individual. He was somebody that really spoke to a lot of the interest and challenge in our technology industry. And obviously, he led a very interesting life and left behind a legacy. And in fact, I have huge thanks, of course, to John's wife, Janice, who actually made this conversation happen. In April of 2020, John and I sat down for a quick 30-minute podcast, and I was lucky enough to be able to spend time with him before we tragically lost him in 2021. So I would invite you to take a look at this podcast. The reason why I published it is because I had to wait a while. We discussed some pretty challenging subjects in here, including, as you can imagine, in 2021, what was going on at the time. We were in the throes of the beginning of a pandemic. And there was a lot of questions about what that would mean. And we were at the verge of beginning with lockdowns and changes in travel. So this conversation with John talked a lot about originally decentralization. It obviously navigated some difficult areas, but we talk about a lot about personal privacy and the risks that are in our industry. At any rate, I just wanted to share this video, and I know it likely will not be monetized, as it shouldn't need to be, because it has some challenging topics that we discuss. But I wanted to share this conversation with the world. If you haven't already heard the audio version, this is a great chance to take a look. And it really a fun and interesting conversation. Like I said, John was an evocative person in that he could really trigger some interesting thought and was certainly not afraid of saying some pretty bold things in his time that he shared with us here on Earth. So thank you, Janice. Thank you for those folks who've actually, made this podcast a continuing part of their lives. And thank you in memoriam to John McAfee for spending time with me and with our community. With that, this is a conversation with John McAfee from April of 2020. Well, welcome today, Mr. John McAfee. It's an absolute pleasure to have you on. I wanted to start with you've been a long-time advocate for privacy and for decentralization and stuff that we can do as citizens. And I think, obviously, the stuff that we're seeing as of late with COVID and the world is changing. And what do you think that we can do? Let's talk about privacy. I'd love to actually just, if you introduce.
Okay, let's dive in. Okay. First of all, we lost privacy a long time ago. And we're not going to get it back as long as we carry smartphones. That's just a fact of life, people. Doesn't matter if you use encrypted communications. Keep in mind, encrypted communications were designed to thwart a hacking technique called man in the middle, meaning someone between you and the person you're communicating with is listening. Yeah, okay, it definitely thwarts that, but there has not been a man in the middle for almost 10 years. No need. If you've been on like a porn site, Pornhub, a few people have been on that. That's a joke. It's the most popular site on the net. Then you're infected. You have spyware on your phone. I mean, how do you think they make money? Nobody subscribes. It's all free, right? How do you think they make money? By selling information. And so people will say, I want you to plant this or that on the phone. If you, for example, even if you just do Pornhub.com, looked at it, and moved on, it already sets your download unauthorized application flag. If you click one video, you have downloaded a piece of spyware, very short, you don't even notice it, it happens so fast. And then your microphone, your camera, your contacts, your emails are owned by the owner of that spyware. And sometimes you have 10 or 12 different ones on your phone. When they're listening to you, it's very difficult to send an entire voice file without you noticing. So they use the facilities on your phone to convert the voice to text and just send a tiny text file. It gets lost in transmission. You can't even see it. Same thing with the videos, which are compressed. So they're watching you while you type something in. Then if you're using Signal or WhatsApp and it's encrypted, they don't care. They've already seen what you typed in. On the other end, you have to display it on the screen. They're watching that. So you don't have privacy, and there's simply not a way to get it back without throwing away your phones, which Janice and I had done. We don't own smartphones. We'll never own them again. I value my privacy. Also, we're in hiding. Have been for 8 months now. If we had phones, we would have been collected a half an hour after we turned them on. This is the way it works, people. So you want to know how to get it back, throw your phones away, which no one's going to do. That is the only way. The only thing you can hide now is your location. And to do that, you can snip the antenna on your phone, take it apart, or have somebody do it. Or get a signal jammer, which jams the location signal. That's the only thing you can hide, nothing else. Nothing else. So what we're talking about now, I promise you, is being watched by half a dozen agencies or people or what have you, because we're on an open communication channel. Even if it were closed, they'd still be watching. Makes no difference.
I think that's the trick, right? Even closed it's only veiled as closed, right?
It's not really. And if we're using encrypted communication like WhatsApp Signal, they're still watching. There's nobody in the middle. Hadn't been anybody in the middle for 10 years. So all those things are useless. There's simply no way to get your privacy back, people, as long as you carry a smartphone. End of story. So no one's going to do it. I give the advice. No one takes it. Next subject.
Yeah. So a platform of freedom, and I think this is what I adore about your approach to this. There's so much that can't be taken down. We just talked about privacy, right? There is no way to unpack it.
No way. This can't be done anymore. I promise you. And if I'm telling you that, if someone knows more about privacy than me, then get their advice.
So the platform of freedom, right? What are the things that we can do personally and as a group, as citizens to get freedom and try and bring that back?
The first thing to do is to stop believing and buying into the nonsense propaganda that's promoted by our governments and by the mainstream media, where they go hand in hand. All right. The government is as much controlled by the mainstream media as citizens are. I don't watch it. It's nonsense. People ask me, what do you think of Bill Gates? What do you think? Well, I don't have a clue. All I know is what's on mainstream media, which is zero. So I can't, unless I know someone personally, I can't tell you. But we get our freedom back by first taking responsibility for our own understanding of the world, rather than letting someone else tell you what that understanding should be. So believe nothing that you read or see on television, any kind of media. Go out into the world with your own eyes and discover for yourself. There's no way to gain freedom without that first step. And the next step is once you've seen reality as it is, meaning you've ignored everything you've heard or seen on television, you then have to have the courage to take responsibility for your own actions. If the government says, well, COVID the figures are staggering, horrific, but you know better because you've looked at the numbers yourself from the World Health Organization. What? It's not geometric or it's simply a flat curve. And in fact, if you look at the numbers, it is 1/4 as deadly as the flu. Flu kills 650,000 people a year. And this entire COVID things, worldwide, it's 200,000. Most of those numbers are inflated. If you, again, look at facts. Like the CDC puts out a guideline to hospitals. If someone dies and they are tested positive for this virus, then they died from that virus. Well, I promise you this, if someone died and they tested positive for the flu, you'd get 10 times as many deaths. So no, we've never done that before. If someone's in the hospital dying of cancer, liver disease, diabetes, heart disease, and they're terminal, and when they do die, they test positive for the virus. The virus killed them. You see the insanity of that? And so once you open your eyes and stop believing and instead start investigating yourself, people, if you investigated this COVID-19 nonsense, you go, this is nothing, and it is nothing. And they go, well, what about all the hospitals that are full? Are they? There are one or two in each of our major cities, yes, overflowing. But look at the other 50. They're almost vacant. I mean, they had a thing 2 weeks ago. Please go out and take photos of other hospitals. They're all vacant and empty. All vacant and empty. So you've got to say, no, wait a minute. The news is showing us overflowing. We have the numbers. Seriously, in America, 3.5 million people every year die. Most of them in a hospital. Are you saying we can accommodate 3.5 million, but we cannot accommodate 200,000? In fact, in America, it's less. 200,000 is worldwide. So we can accommodate 3.5 million in America, but we cannot accommodate 50,000. See, using your head instead of allowing me to go, oh, it's horrific, and counting and saying, because raw numbers mean nothing. 200,000 people have died in the world. Well, once you check what the world population is, 7.8 billion. That's one person every 100,000 population. Now, if that's a problem, then you need to move out of your mother's basement.
So, well said.
So freedom starts with awareness of the fact that you are being manipulated by the media and by propaganda. 99% of the people do not understand that, nor will they believe it. But if you start questioning everything, you will see the truth. That's beginning. Number two, take responsibility and say, okay, and then I'm going to act according to the truth, not according to the media. By doing so, you get ridicule. I've lost over 20,000 followers in the past few weeks because on my Twitter account, I say, I'm sorry, people, this is how I see it. And here's why. And you go, oh, idiot, educate yourself. Okay, I continue to say it anyway. I'm willing to lose a 20 or 50 or 100, it doesn't matter, or all of them, because I will not lie to people. So that's taking responsibility. It takes courage. You're willing to lose all your followers to tell the truth. If not, you're not free. Do you understand? And then the third thing is take responsibility for your fellow men and at least show them as best you can your experience of reality. That's freedom, people.
And an interesting thing that I saw on your tweet, I believe it was very recently, you talked about that reminder. This is seasonal. Do you think that, I mean,
of course it is.
The risk is this is also an opportunity in a lot of ways, like we saw with the Patriot Act and things that came out of a significant that it basically it's an opportunity to inject fear in and then now additional
and control
process, right?
And control. Like if you look into that $2 billion package that Congress passed in 3 seconds, you will see in there are enormous constitution devouring powers given to the FBI. For example, in an emergency, and who gets to define the emergency? The government. In an emergency, the FBI may detain anyone without a court order indefinitely. Now, if that does not horrify you, then go back to sleep. I cannot help you. So yes, it's being used. It's being used for that. And I don't know what to say. It's wake up, people. Smell the coffee.
It becomes the challenge of Sorry, but the inalienable rights that are not inalienable as we'd hoped, right?
That's correct. They are inalienable only if the government says they are. Do you understand? They're inalienable except now because we're in an emergency. They're inalienable except now because there's a virus going around and you cannot give it to somebody else. You understand? No, none of them are inalienable anymore. They are not rights, but privileges. Do you understand? The government gives you your rights as a privilege, and what's given as a privilege can be taken away. No, sir. Look at the truth, people. Jesus. I'm sorry.
It's it's a very it's interesting because, like you said, there's risk in honesty and approaching difficult topics, right? Because people they look to the media and even what is mainstream by popularity, not by strength of truth, right?
Yes. So basically, what happens is because the truth always contradicts over 90% of people's beliefs, right? And if you contradict it, and if it's serious enough, and what you're saying is true, then that implies, oh my God, we've all been fooled. Nobody wants to accept the fact that they've been fooled. Therefore, you must be wrong. The truth can't possibly be true because it means that, what, all of us were fooled? Yes, that's what it means, people. The sheep, which are 95% of this population, are always fooled. And here's another thing, if the majority of the population believes something, I promise you it's not true. It is wrong. And it was Abraham Lincoln who said it the best, that if everybody believes something, it is 100% false. It's just the truth.
Yeah, consensus is not truth. Consensus is agreement.
Yes.
And it's a very different thing.
Yes, let's agree on what the truth is. Well, no, you can't agree on it. You can only see it or not. All right. When you see it, it can't be agreed to. It is. I mean, you can't just agree to the certainty of your own death. I'm not agreeing to that. Doesn't sound right. No, I'm sorry. That's the truth, people. You will all die. Whether you agree to it or not, it is the truth. Truth has no variations. It has no opinions. It does not have a point of view. It is what it is.
The other thing is the idea of decentralization. Obviously, your research you've done around Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, it's a great opportunity for decentralization of currency. And so where is that working? And where in other ways do you think that we have opportunities to decentralize, maybe even in government, citizenry,
yes,
et cetera?
There you have it. Everything should be decentralized. I mean, we have learned that on the blockchain and decentralization, that with decentralization, things just run smoothly. If we decentralize the government, what if we went back to the Greek concept, city-states? You're a city, yeah, your government, your laws, and you don't like it, let's move to another city, all speaking the same language, all the same culture, but one city says, smoking's bad. The other says you must smoke. One says sex before marriage is bad. The other says, nah, do what you want. You have a choice, do you understand? That's what we need, a decentralized cooperative system where cooperation is absolutely necessary for everybody's survival. Let's say one of the cities or one of the regions is in farming country, and they grow tomatoes. And you want tomatoes, but they don't grow tomatoes in New York City. But the farming country needs whatever, I don't know, prostitute 2 minutes. Then that cooperation benefits everybody. I'm not saying that that's going to be something we can ever implement, but it's certainly a utopian concept. But yeah, no, decentralization is happening to everything. In terms of cryptocurrencies, who are the beneficiaries? It's not Bitcoin. It's certainly not Bitcoin. It's an old technology. It's got no privacy whatsoever. You can't put smart contracts on it. What use is a blockchain without smart contracts to give it growth and give it potential? You can't put distributed apps on it. I mean, yes, it opened the door to a fertile field in which has been planted technologies that were never dreamed of before. Privacy coins, decentralized exchanges, stable coins. They are probably the most beneficial thing that just popped out of cryptocurrency. Before them, if the market was unstable, oh, I've got to get out. Why don't you get out into a currency? No more. Just trade those for DAI, please. Like DAI never varies more than 1% from the US dollar. You don't like the US dollar? I get a coin based on the euro. You don't like the euro? Get a coin based on a basket of things. They're all stable and do not vary. As the market goes up and down, they stay the same and have for over a year. So stable coins, privacy coins, so that you get to do your financial transactions in private. Not even governments with all their powers can look into what you're doing. And distributed exchanges we have to have, because centralized exchanges are already under the thumb of governments. You go, you must do your KYC. The implication is if you don't, we're going to shut you down. How do they shut them down? They know where you are. They know you have servers are. You can just turn the electricity off. Done. Over. So they have had to bow to the will of governments, but not decentralized exchanges. I built one called the McAfee DEX. It's a truly decentralized, truly distributed exchange. And we ask nothing, not your name, not your address, not your email, not your IP address, nothing. You're totally anonymous. Come in, do your business, and leave. Now, the SEC is up in arms against that. I could care less. It's built up. Its logic is based on smart contracts on the blockchains. Well, except Bitcoin, you can't do it. It can't be shut down. I can't shut it down. Nobody can. They're there permanently. That's the beauty of the blockchain. It is an immutable item. Put some logic there. It's always there in the story.
In a sense, do you think that now this is probably one of the most opportune things because of the financial?
Yes, I do.
Have occurred, right? This is a great opportunity, right?
It is, but I'm not sure people are going to take it anymore, and they're all scared about other things. Who cares about blockchains when a virus might kill us? Here's another thing about that virus, people. Please understand the following. If you're under 50, the chances of you dying of this are 1 in 40 million. You have a greater chance of winning the lottery, for heaven's sake. Hardly anybody dies. There's been a 16-year-old infant a month ago. Even that was questioned. But so what? Yet, even if it's 10,000, it's still totally insignificant. Your risks are much higher of dying from the flu. Much higher. The flu does kill 630,000. It's higher than dying from diarrhea, which kills 2.5 million every year. Please, people, let's wake up. 60 million people every year dying in this world. And we're panicking over less than 250,000. Please, you guys need to wake up.
It's the interesting use of statistics and numbers in order to
further that's the narrative,
right?
They used the raw number. 250,000 people have died. People go, Well, let's put that in perspective, can we? 7.8 billion people on this planet. Why don't you run those numbers? 250,000 people is less than 1 in random numbers. It's over 2 million, even including people my age, which are the ones that die. Then nobody under 50 dies. Means, as I said, it's almost impossible. Even the ones over 50, run those numbers, it's insignificant. It's vastly insignificant.
So I'd love to hear about 2020. I know you've obviously dabbled in political races in the past, and I think if nothing, it's at least brought eyes to what's missing and what's broken in the system.
That's the only reason. That's the only reason I'm running. I don't want to be president. Plus, I'm in the Libertarian Party. We can't be presidents. We're the third. They say, oh, we're the third largest party. It's totally meaningless. There's only two parties in America
Sadly.
that
Yes.
matter, and they own the political system. No one will ever be able to break into it. Nevertheless, my first run was in 2016, my first foray into politics. I came in third at the national convention, at the nominating convention. I thought, good God, how did that happen? This year I actually have a chance, in spite of my insane existence, in spite of my arrest record, in spite of all accusations. I won the South Carolina primary. I came tied to the North Carolina primary, and we haven't begun yet. So, good Lord, I don't know. And I haven't even ramped up. Plus, since that happened, the coronavirus came in, and it looks like all conventions are going to be remote this year. Do you understand how that is going to change the landscape of the political process? I mean, listen, I had the advantage there. I do 3 of these podcasts every single day and have for almost a year. I am seasoned at this. I've got the studio. I've got the everything. Listen, I've got the advantage there. I mean, most libertarians are so technologically illiterate that I could, with my eyes closed, probably get nominated. Maybe I'm wrong, but there you have it.
Well, and you've had 74 very interesting years under your belt, and many more ahead. What would you like to accomplish that you maybe perhaps have not as so far in your life?
I'd like to accomplish what I think is impossible, given the circumstances. That is, to leave my children and grandchildren and yours and everybody's a world better than the one I arrived in. And I arrived in a pretty miraculous world, even though I was born at the very last days of World War II into a poverty-stricken England, bombed out, demoralized, no food, everything rationed for years. When I reached the age of 12, I was in America, living under Dwight D. Eisenhower, living well under the reign of Dwight D. Eisenhower, the last true president in America that had any power at all. Nobody has presidential power anymore. It's another reason I don't want to be president. He warned us, by the way, when he left office in 1960, he said, people, if you are not careful, the CIA, the military-industrial complex, will continue to erode the power of the presidency until they become mere puppets, and your freedoms will disappear. Well, that's already happened. We didn't pay any attention. The next president who came in, and by the way, the CIA, in my mind, controls America. Why? I know them well. They're my first and largest customer at McAfee Antivirus, and then further on McAfee Computer Security Company. And they, by the way, refer to presidents as transients. That's the name they give them.
How apropos.
How apropos they are, in fact. In any case, the next president, John F. Kennedy, after a while reviewing them, said, listen, I'm publicly said, I'm going to disassemble the CIA and give those elements to our other covert agencies. Not firing anybody, but there are 14 covert agencies in America. The CIA, the NSA, Secret Service, the covert agencies of the military intelligence, and on and on and on. So he said, we're going to do that. A month later, he suffered a tragic accident. He was shot in Dallas. Now, people go, well, there's no connection, but maybe I just don't believe that much in coincidence. And now, presidents have zero power. And give me an example. The second Gulf War, this is the most visible example. The CIA station office in the Middle East said, listen, Saddam is fucking with our plans. We tried to assassinate him. He's too slippery. Make the president bomb Iraq. And so the DC station office sent 2 people who knew the president, said, Mr. President, please sit down. We have news of the gravest importance. Mr. President, we just discovered that Iraq has nuclear weapons and missiles capable of reaching our closest ally, which is England. And we have information that they may, in fact, initiate an attack within the week. Now, Mr. President, it's not our job to advise you. No. Our job is merely to inform you. Well, within 24 hours, the bombing of Iraq began, and we bombed them into the Stone Age. Were there nuclear weapons? Of course not. Everybody knew it. The American public knew it. Europe knew it. Certainly everybody in the Middle East was shaking and go, what? Iraq nuclear weapons? It's insane. Did they have them? No. At the end, weren't there. The CIA purposely lied. Now, they don't lie all the time. They merely give you selective tidbits of truth with which you can build any story you want. But tell me, what power did George Bush have? None. He was forced into that move because presidents do not make decisions in a vacuum. Not anymore. You require information. Where's it come from? The CIA. Anyway, I could go on forever about this.
I would enjoy, and I know we're coming up to our time.
Oh, I'm sorry. We have one more question, my friend.
Yeah. Oh no. And I apologize. I didn't want to eat into time. If you've got another recording coming right after this,
I do. I'm sorry.
No worries. But if you had a regret, what would be something you would? Is there anything you would like to walk back or perhaps revisit?
Absolutely nothing in my life. Nothing. Not even which shoe I put on which foot the first. Why? Because I fear it would change my trajectory, and I would not be sitting here right now, because I am the happiest I've ever been, the most content, and certainly the most aware I've ever been. And I would never, ever want to miss this reality that I'm experiencing. All right.
I appreciate that outlook. That is excellent. Mr. Right. John McAfee, thank you very much for taking the time. It's been an absolute pleasure. And thank you to Janice for setting us up.
Thank you, Janice.
All right. With that, okay. We will send.
And thank you, Eric. Thank you, Eric. Send her a link. We'll put it up. May not be for a few days. Okay, we're a little backlogged, but
yeah, no, understandable. So I'll send it as soon as it's available. Thanks very much. Right. Have a great day.
Right. Bye bye.